we can get started. All right. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for February 20th, 2020. Got about 2 minutes here until the close. And so we're going to get to see just about where the market is going to finish up here. Okay, and market looks like it's going to be down just a little bit, 0.87 there on the Qs and 0.33 on the SPY. But I think the drop that we got this morning isn't insignificant. Okay, so we did get a drop and enough to break the hourly uptrend. Okay, so we've been watching this hourly uptrend. We did get a drop in the morning. It was news related, but either way, the market sold off. You know, price said lower at that time and did break the hourly uptrend. Now we are retracing that move a little bit. Okay, so now as we are retracing this move, all right, gonna be looking for us to go back lower. If we break underneath 233.40 or so on the Qs, that will be triggering an hourly sell setup. Okay, so we broke the hourly uptrend. So we're going to be neutral going into tomorrow underneath 233.40, looking for short-term bearishness. Okay, similar pattern here on the SPY, broken uptrend underneath this bar right here. Okay, underneath 335.70, going to be looking for continued weakness. Okay, short-term bearish bias. Now, it is possible that the top is in. That this is the top. We've got a little bit of a breakout failure, but it's pretty hard to call. It's not either scenario that I was really looking for to potentially call it some kind of top. So we didn't really accelerate away. We got a little bit on the monthly here, a little bit of acceleration right away. You know, if it ends up being the top, that's probably what we're going to look back and say, okay, that was it, but definitely not on the daily. Pretty steady grind, not that extended away from the 20 MA, very parallel to the 20 MA. You know, so it's pretty tough to call. So this may just be, if it is the top, one that I didn't think was the one, but you know, for now, going into tomorrow, gonna be neutral, all right, unless we trigger this hourly sell setup, all right, and then we'll be looking for us to fall and retest the lows, potentially break it back to where support is around 230.50, okay, on the Qs. All right, so that's going to be our expectation going into tomorrow neutral. If we trigger the hourly sell setup, we're going to see what kind of start to a daily pullback we might be getting, okay? But the daily's still in an uptrend, weekly still in an uptrend, monthly is really the one that looking like maybe it's getting extended here, but you know, I think going into tomorrow, neutral, and then bearish if we trigger the hourly sell setup. If we start to get some kind of deep pullback, you know, then we can start to talk about, you know, was that the top or not. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so I know that doesn't allow you, if you've been waiting to pick the top, to get in the top, to necessarily get you in at the best price, right? But as we're following this trend, you know, we've definitely seen stuff like this before, and it's not a, you know, we didn't get a devastating gap down. We didn't get the climactic top. In fact, we actually got a climactic bottom today, right? We accelerated down and then put in the bottom. You know, when this was happening, I was saying, you know, of course, now we're all thinking, okay, maybe that was the top and we retreated in a hurry. But I would have much actually preferred, if we were going to, you know, look for an opportunity to pick a top, if we had actually gone climactic to the upside to put in a blow off top rather than go climactic to the downside. So either way, going into tomorrow, we're going to be neutral, and then we'll see if that hourly sell setup triggers. Now, on the market here, okay, the reason that we have not been repeatedly saying every new high is potentially the top is because we don't have time frame alignment, right? The weekly, monthly are very strong, even if the hourly here is starting to weaken. Now, what we do on day trades is we do look for that time frame alignment to give us the cue to go. Okay, so notice here we talked about the two fundamental entry patterns that we use. And here you can see, right, a nice consolidation there, breaking over this top here, right? And so you can see that today's gap kind of triggered the breakout. And what did we have? The very first thing mentioned this morning was CYH for a breakout over this high. Now I did use the low of the day as the stop. You could have used a tighter stop here, right? Could have used 555 as the stop, and I used 570 as the entry, so a 15-cent stop instead of the 30-cent stop that I used, right? And would have had a monster play on this CYH as a breakout. But you can see here, right, why would we be looking for a breakout, right, on this? As opposed to, someone can make the case, well, up here it's doing a breakdown. Yeah, true, but why would I be looking to short this when the larger time frame is saying higher? So when the larger time frame is saying higher, that's when I'm using our patterns, entry patterns, buy, setup, breakout. If the larger time frames are saying lower, right, then I'm going to be looking for sell, setup, breakdown, right? So with this, we got a nice kind of breakout of the opening range. We got another breakout. I think it was mentioned also, this 2 minute 1 2 3 that's set up here, and then there was another base breakout here that was given. So there was actually 3 plays right over here. Even though it was up a lot, it really looked like it was just going to keep on going. I think Sammy gave this breakout here it was over 42 and ran all the way up to 727. Now I wish I could have said that I stayed all the way in the 720 till it was at 727, even though there was reason to. It did finally come in here at the end of the day, but just uptrending all day. Very, very impressive. Also notice how if you were maybe looking to fade this thing, there were a lot of times where it tried to accelerate, tried to get going, and couldn't. So hopefully that kept you out of trying to potentially short this. I guess it eventually came in at the end of the day here. That's a pretty tough setup, even if it did actually give pretty good follow through coming back in. All right, so that was the CYH breakout on the daily, breakout on the intraday, right, and a nice gap to get things started. TVTY, right, you can see here breaking down here on the monthly, right, falling apart here on the weekly, right, and had a nice little base breakdown. This was also called by Sammy here, the TVTY breakdown. That was a nice hold there. And even though I think at this point, I think it was down 30%, you can see that it's going to close the day here down 45%. So, sometimes this concept of, it's already down too much, or it's down, can always go lower if it's not at 0. And this is a very, very damaging gap. So you can see anybody who's played this long, who's still in it right on this day, majority of people are gonna be in pain, right? So that's the idea of trap traders needing to get out. So all day downtrend there on the TVTY. And then the VTR here in the afternoon is the reason that I'm coming on just a little bit so close to the close here, is because I was trying to just exiting out this last piece here on the VTR. VTR had a nice kind of rounded bottom here, carving out a bottom. You can see it also on the weekly here, right? And then did a gap bully, which is a gap down, and then broke the support and then rallied through the resistance, right? Staying very, very strong, even as the market was showing a good amount of weakness. So I know some people played this with me. It wasn't an easy one to manage. You can tell just by kind of the size of some of these candles, tails in both directions kind of thing. So it definitely was a challenge to manage, because it would move up nicely and then come back down, move up nicely and then come back down. But the direction at least was clear. So if you didn't come away with as much as you would have liked, at least you shouldn't have lost on it. So the VTR here, kind of the last play. But you can see here also, the daily is doing this big breakout, right, over this range that it's been stuck in for months here. And then on the intraday, also doing a base breakout. Right here, we have some equal highs, relatively equal lows, right? And it's getting going. So that's the power of time frame alignment, right? You're getting the larger picture to point a specific direction, and then the intraday is also setting up in alignment with it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of plays that don't quite set up, perfectly. Maybe it's a bullish daily, but it's weak on the intraday, and then those just become a no play. Some people like to treat those more as a scalp. They're going to be kind of like quick targets because you're not as likely to get this all day move or this just continuous move here from, CYH, at least until the last 30 minutes, or something like this TVTY, right? Down all the way until the end, a little bit of a pop there. But for the most part, the easier way to take profit from this TVTY is to the downside, right? As it spent most of the day doing this downtrend. Okay, so that's the power of the time frame alignment. Sometimes even you'll get a breakout on the daily and then a breakout on the intraday, right? And so, we're just combining those, right, for better chance for follow through and a nice big play. Okay? All right. So that's going to do it for today's market wrap. Hope you did well. We'll be back at it tomorrow, all right, to close out the week. Have a good evening.